everyone and welcome back to Turf and Tarmac. On this episode, we will be celebrating Women and Girls in Sport Week with our guests Anne Savage, Lianne Mayhew and Sammi Filsell. They will be introducing themselves and their experiences as women in motorcycle sport. So hello ladies and welcome to the podcast. How are you all doing?
Really well, thank you.
Good.
Yeah, great, thanks.
Good.
Yeah. Really happy to be involved.
Good, very good. So we'll just fire in with the questions then. So can you each tell me what discipline you ride in and how you got started there?
So I'm Anne and my discipline is Supermoto.
Great. And how did you get started?
How did I get started? Well, with Supermoto, it was when I moved to Scotland in 2014. My partner was a Supermoto rider, and I used to ride bikes when I was about 7 or 8. My dad and my brothers, like doing enduro and stuff. And then I really didn't touch bikes apart from my road bike, didn't touch competition until I met my partner. I moved to Scotland and I started going to Supermoto, and then I just thought, well, I can do that. So I bought a mini bike Supermoto and started riding that. Then I started competing in the British Supermoto and the Scottish Supermoto championships. I did all right, did quite well. I managed to win the British last year, and I think I won the pit bike a few years ago. And then I ended up organising, there's me and a team of people organised the Scottish Supermoto Championship, which we had our first full season of this year with SACU. So yeah.
Nice, that all sounds amazing.
I road race on a Kawasaki ZXR 400. Nice. And I started off about 2004 on a sidecar and as a passenger.
Okay.
And then I had a shoulder operation about 9 years later and I couldn't hold on anymore, so I decided to go into two wheels instead.
Nice. How did you find that transition?
Quite a bit different because I'd never driven the sidecar before, so
okay.
I needed to kind of tap into my sort of not aggression but competitiveness.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. It's completely
different. I'm quite a placid person, so I've never really bothered about that kind of thing. I've finally got into sort of being more aggressive on the track.
No, that sounds great.
So I'm Sammi. I ended up doing the enduro side of things, and I'm just hearing obviously Anne saying that it was your other half that kind of got you into it. We were exactly the same. So my other half, Tim, was moving to Scotland, and we very much had the conversation of like, what sport do we want to do together that we can actually do here. And I'd previously done a couple of sort of ladies' days down south and kind of really enjoyed it, but didn't really know how to get into the sport. So we started doing a couple of lessons up together. But I mean, I've only been riding sort of 18 months. So obviously most of that's been during lockdown. So we literally kind of bought the bikes and then kind of went into lockdown. As it all started coming out, we started having lessons with Kev Murray. And he's been great, but it's just been a case of kind of learning everything like quite from scratch. So I'm hoping we haven't picked up too many bad habits, because actually everything that we've done is like, at the moment it's really forced. He keeps laughing at me because I kind of listen to everything that he says, like, right, do this, okay, I'll do this, and then don't actually but none of it's kind of smooth flowing yet. So I've obviously not got half the experience that you guys have got, but I have come into it and sort of learned how to ride a bike from scratch, age whatever I am. So yeah, it's been different world.
Yeah. So have you done many competitions?
I've done a few now. I've just done I finished my first Hare and Hounds 2 weeks ago. So I was quite happy about that, because with the 3 hours of riding, and to be honest, the more intimidating thing about the Hare and Hounds that I think I didn't expect to find was how much people are lapping you. So it's fine at the start when like the fast people are lapping you, that's not a problem, because they just come past you. But then later on, when people that are obviously better than you because they're lapping you, but not that much, they're kind of toddling past you as like the wacky races at the back. I found that quite scary. So yes, we did a couple last year, but I didn't manage to finish them. So for me, finishing this year was like a big thing.
Wow, that's amazing. Well done.
Thanks.
So moving on, who is your biggest inspiration in motorcycle sport?
Oh, okay. So it's so you know, obviously my brother and my dad, who no one's ever heard of, really inspired me. I was surrounded by bikes as a kid, and my elder sister used to have posters of Evel Knievel and Barry Sheen in her wardrobe hanging up. I mean, this is how old I am. And but I was lucky enough to go to school with Carl Fogarty's cousin, and she was my best friend at school. So obviously Carl Fogarty is a huge hero. But present day, I would have to say, so the Scott Murray and Jamie Duncan. I know Jamie's done a podcast, just incredible supermoto riders, came from motocross, like transitioned to supermoto, like in an epic style. I think Jamie's won the British Championship quite recently, and the female supermoto riders from the British Championship, some of who are, you know, up there with the Bs. So there's A's, B's and C's, A's being elite, I'm in the C's, up there, you know, snapping at the heels of the top riders of the Bs, a constant inspiration. I think, in fact, I know that it's only 7%, because I fact checked before I came on today, 7% female riders to male riders in England and Wales, and in Scotland there's only 4% female.
Oh my God.
So, you know, it's a long way to go, but it's, you know, it's definitely things like this that should hopefully inspire like young girls. There's a few like very young girls coming along to the track at the minute, which is really exciting, and we really want to push them. But it's really difficult because, like we were saying before, Sammi, if you don't, like I had my brothers, if you don't have that connection with motorcycle sport, for girls especially, it's really difficult to just stumble across it. You know, it's you've got to know someone who's into it in order to sort of, like, in order for there to be no barriers towards the sport. So hopefully,
yeah, definitely.
So like hopefully this will go a long way towards breaking down those barriers.
Yes, hopefully, because a lot of the women and girls we have spoke to so far, it's kind of been they've got connections to the sport already, and that's how they've come in. But hopefully, with things like this, we'll be able to just ease that barrier.
It's kind of like my whole family, and because my dad was a sidecar passenger in the 80s.
Yeah.
And I grew up all around motorbikes and stuff like that. So it's just kind of really anybody that's done the TT is an inspiration, I would have said.
Your family. Yeah. Nice one.
For me, it's got to be little Christina Palmer. I don't know if you guys have sort of come across her, but she's 15 years old and she's absolutely killing it in the sort of enduro world. But she's actually like competitive with all the guys her age group as well. But not just that and the ability wise, but actually as a person, she's really cool, like just like a lovely person, really kind. She broke her pelvis this summer and has been out of action for kind of 3 to 6 months, really struggled with it. But a couple of weeks ago when I did the Hare and Hounds up at Tay, I just sort of said to her, do you want to come with me, like get out of the house a little bit? And she just, again, kind of smashing life, she was like, yeah, I will, and kind of grabbed it by, like, just took the opportunity. So she came up with me, we had a little sleepover the night before, and she ended up sort of being like my pit crew. So just the two of us went up and did it. So it was really nice to be able to be, because obviously I've come into the sport with my other half, but he was away. So it was nice to still be able to go do an event, and yet I've got a 15-year-old absolute pro as my pit crew.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, can I just add to that as well, because I've been to the Scottish 6 days trial with my other half, and I know for a fact He was beaten by Emma Bristow, another amazing woman in motorcycle sport, and several other women actually beat him at the Scottish. So total heroes, yeah.
Wow, nice one. It's great the amount of women and other people you get to meet in sport that you maybe wouldn't come across whenever you're not taking part in it. It's lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say your biggest motivation is as a rider?
To beat the boys. You know, it's weird because I'm not sure if it's the same with road racing or enduro, but I constantly feel like I've got a target on my back, and I know it's, you can just hear the murmurings that I can't be beaten by a woman. So when you do, you know, do well against men, it's really rewarding, shall we say. But I mean, it shouldn't really be about that. My biggest motivation is, I can't explain it, I just love riding bikes. I love the thrill, I love the danger, I love the competitiveness, and you know, really enjoy encouraging youngsters into the sport. But from a personal level, biggest motivation is just go as fast as you can and try and beat as many men as you can along the way.
I love that. We might be small in numbers, but beat them.
I think it's just have fun.
Definitely, a big part of everything is just getting out there, having fun, being able to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, it's the only time I've ever been able to afford it.
Yeah.
Because there's no way I would have been able to afford it when I was like 12-year-old or anything. Mum and Dad wouldn't have been able to.
No, I know that's the thing. They're very expensive sports to get into.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's fun for me.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I think the biggest motivation has to be like enjoying your weekends and actually able to sort of work hard during the week and then but be able to do what you want on the weekends. But I think the motivation is it's just to kind of not let myself down. I know it sounds really silly, but I'm not at the stage where I'm ever going to be competitive. I've come into it too late, and that's okay. And actually being competitive, I say I didn't care, that's a total lie, but like that's not the main motivation. But it's just about kind of what Anne was saying, like just love kind of being on my bike, that sort of feeling. We went riding in Dubai in the sand dunes a couple of weeks last month, and the feel, I used to ski race as a kid, so actually just the feel from skiing was so similar to riding in the dunes, just kind of coming up and over, like everything that it was all the same sort of sensations that I used to get skiing, and obviously that's not happened recently. So it was really nice to actually feel competent. I'm definitely not competent. I'm still having to think about every single input into the bike. But so I think the motivation is probably actually to like learn to get better, because it's quite nice to have another skill. So when we're doing competitions and I'm kind of beating people, I almost don't see it as girls, boys, or indifferent. It's like, oh, I'm moving up the ranks. It kind of doesn't matter where that is. So yeah, I just love it.
Nice. So how does it feel during a race and after a race?
Oh God. Like literally sometimes physically sick, shaking, can't eat. Like mainly don't eat all day. I might be able to chew the end off a banana. But then like I think about this a lot, and it's like I sometimes go, why on earth do I put myself through this? I can't stand it. It's horrendous. And then obviously get out and track and everything's fine. I mean, I'm really small and I've just moved up to a 450, which is quite a challenge because I'm 3.5, 5'4", and my biggest fear now is not falling off on the grid, because I'm sure the other girls here can appreciate what I'm saying. So once I get going, all that goes out your head, and obviously you come back and either you're absolutely devastated because you came off, or you lost a few places, or you know, fingers crossed, you managed to gain that. It doesn't even matter if you won. It's if you pass the person you wanted to pass, or you just feel like you've done your best. The feeling is absolutely irreplaceable, the best feeling on the planet. So yeah, so there you go.
a constant mix of emotions.
Constant, yeah. I would not change it for the world.
Everything she said, really. Yeah, you feel nervous before you go out, and you're like dry mouthed and not shaking, but just kind of sort of excited about it. And then when you get on the grid, you're like, just change the lights. I don't know if you've got red. We've got the red lights, and they just go off.
Yeah, same
and
here.
then they're holding them for ages, and you're like, hurry up. And then once you're actually, the first corner is the kind of worst bit for me. I'm not aggressive enough to get in front of people.
Yeah.
But it's kind of heartbeats all high, and then once you start getting settled in, it's just getting like a rhythm going, and you're always concentrating on the next person.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever you're fighting, racing with, or like I've actually started doing back markers now for a change, because I'm usually the one that's getting lapped. But I've actually started being the one that is lapping now for a change. But it's quite hard actually coming up to back markers and trying to, you have to like concentrate away ahead of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like once you kind of cross the finishing line, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when we're on the start line, everyone sort of goes off, but it's a 3-hour race. So actually the getting to the first corner is just not important, definitely not for me, but actually in argument, like probably not for the race. So for us, it's like actually I quite like the sort of race prep and putting all your kit on, and like the 2 or 3 days before, where we check all the bolts on the bikes and make sure we've actually got everything, and like water packs filled up and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But actually the morning of it, it's kind of adrenaline, and like you're quite excited to be getting out on your bike. But it's probably not the ups and the downs that you guys get from the races that you do, but it's different. But I think it's probably a more friendly way to get into it, but you are then having to ride your bike for 3 hours. So I don't know, it depends on what you actually think of as friendly.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then again at the end of it, I think it's kind of relief that I was saying that, I was going to say relief that it's over, but actually the only one that I've actually managed to get to the end of properly. I was just really kind of, I guess, like proud of myself, which is still a weird thing to say, but I think that's why I keep saying it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, just finishing one race, or when you finish your 100th race, you're always going to be so proud of yourself for getting out there and being able to do it as you should be. Yeah,
I think it's a case of like doing, like you want to start it, and then when you get to the end, it's you kind of, you've completed something, so it's an achievement.
Definitely, yeah.
As long as you've ridden your best, Anne.
Well, yeah, like people say, oh, it's not the winning, it's taking part. That's utter nonsense. I mean, it really,
I totally agree.
It's nonsense. However, hats off to you for doing a 3-hour anything. That's just like beyond my comprehension. That's immense. Our races normally last 20 minutes, and that's including gridding up and the warm-up lap. So 3 hours, that's impressive.
or really stupid.
So do you get any breaks, or is it just 3 hours straight?
3 hours straight. So it's 3 hours, as many laps as you can do. And because I'm riding so efficiently, I'm not sure that's the complete technical term, but I don't actually need to refuel either, because I don't use enough fuel. Most people will come in for like a fuel and a pee break. So I think I had my ladies' wee in the middle of Portaloos, absolutely perfect. But other than that, I just rode all the way through.
Nice one. So what's the biggest benefit you get from motorcycle sport?
Okay, so there's the riding side, and then there's the organising side for me, because I would say doing the championship of in Scotland of the Scottish Supermoto this year has been probably one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life. We've had so many kids come through. I think we've gone from a maximum of 15, 20 competitors last year to 47 this year. It's almost doubled, so it's just amazing. But from a riding point of view, benefits would be social side, fitness, mental health. Me and my partner have got something that we both do together.
Yeah.
That's really important for me anyway. And yeah, just, I mean, like the other girls here, I'm sure you don't actually think, oh, I'm a girl doing motorbike racing. Once you're in it, you're just in it. And that the benefits are just all above: fitness, friends, traveling, healthy relationship, healthy me, love it all.
Yeah, it must be great being able to go to your partner and.
Well, you say training, because we do the Scottish Championship one weekend and then the British another weekend. I only ride my bike 2 weekends a month.
Okay.
So it's just mainly competition with like one warm-up day, because where I live in Aberdeen, it's so far from the nearest track. There are no local tracks. I would say that's the downside to probably road racing, that you might agree with. And you know, if it was motocross or enduro, there's a lot more places you could go, whereas it's the travel time to find a track is really difficult.
Yeah.
So it's literally turn up, race, go home.
I can imagine.
No leisurely riding round.
So where is the closest track to you?
Well, Crail, our Scottish Supermoto
Oh,
home
okay.
track, which is it's about 2 hours from Aberdeen to Crail.
Okay.
It's kind of, I've noticed over, see when we had the lockdown and we didn't really, I only got about 2 races that year or something. It actually makes a difference to my mental health.
Yeah.
See, I can't really explain it properly, but I felt so down
Yeah.
when I wasn't able to get out. And I know it sounds a bit sad, I wasn't allowed to get in my bike, but
No, but it's a very good point. I think a lot of people have been affected by COVID and lockdowns and stuff.
Yeah.
You don't actually realise how much just getting out there and being able to clear your head, how much it takes your mind off things and just helps you get through life sometimes. I think it's
It does.
opened a lot of people's eyes this year.
Yeah, it made a big difference to me anyway. So like this year's basically been a full year, just about, and
Yeah.
it made such a big difference.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is good.
Yeah, I think the biggest benefit is just about kind of being like having a focus and actually having something to work on that isn't work. So you've obviously got work during the week, get your head down, get on with that. I'm quite lucky that it is mostly, I was going to say Monday, Friday, 9 to 5. It's Monday to Friday. Let's leave it at that. So actually the weekends are kind of that's our time. And yeah, same as Anne, we kind of, we do it together. So like we're out on Sunday in the forest outside in the mud for the full day, but actually we're doing it together. So I think if Tim was off doing it without me, I'd be like, I don't want that. And then equally vice versa. So yeah, it's, I think the biggest benefit is actually just getting outside and kind of a combination of Lianne and Anne's, like it's for your mental health, but also getting to spend time with the other half. So
yeah, definitely.
Echoing everyone else's thoughts.
Lovely. That sounds good. So we touched on the percentages of women and the sport compared to that of men. So it was 4%, you said, Anne, wasn't it?
There's 2 girls out of estimated 45 riders, and in England there's I think 6 of us in the British out of about 80 riders. So quick Google, I gave you the stats of 8% and 4.4%. So it's difficult, isn't it? Because I mean, there's so many ways to look at it. You know, it's not necessarily something that most girls would automatically get into. And like we were saying before, it's family connections. If you've got brothers or dads, you're more likely to. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head who's just come out the woodwork and just got into, and sorry, I'm talking about girls or women who haven't had that infrastructure of you know, support by family. So I'm not sure what the answer to that is. Maybe some of the other girls might have an idea.
Yeah, I mean, we chose motorbiking because that was my decision, and that was because I'd done a couple of girls' days. So that down south there was kind of ladies' days on. Again, it was at a track of one of my friends' husband's rides there. So we went along. It was like not that expensive, but it was just like get the girls in, and we had I think it was like half an hour sessions, but they just did it throughout the whole day. And we had such an amazing time. We're like, we have to go back. So we actually said, like, have you got any cancellations? So we went and had like a picnic on a side of a river, waiting for somebody to not show up so we could still be there within their half an hour slot. But again, it's knowing that was even on. So I think we would have only known about it because of him.
Yeah.
But then then we went from there. And then, as I said, when Tim sort of came up here, he actually wanted to go into rallying and doing sort of the car side of things. But my thought was like, if we're going to do something, then I want it to be physical. And in my opinion, sitting in a car is not it's not physical enough for the weekends, because I sit pretty much right here all during the week. So it was so I think trying to get more people involved, it's definitely like a marketing thing, and just an awareness of like, this is a sport that you can take up and it's enjoyable. So I think there's a lot of females there's not very many females that would want to start a sport when they're adults and necessarily be competitive at it, because actually they're almost never going to be, unless you commit your whole life to that. So personally, I think it's about more making it accessible to enter, but then also having like the forest trips and the sort of big bike days and biking as a whole concept being accessible, like without it having to be competitive.
Yeah.
Can I ask, sorry, I didn't mean to cut. So when you went on your ladies' day, did they provide the bikes?
Everything.
Yeah, so that's a great idea. We did that at Scottish Supermoto. We are, just slight plug, we are doing that now with the mini bikes, the 150s, and I think it's really important, isn't it? You know, because who can afford to go out and buy a bike in case, you know, you may or may not like it. So that's where that's where it lies, isn't it, to provide all that so people can just turn up and see if they like it.
Yeah, I mean, I just did my bike test over the summer, so I finally actually got a license. But again, that was done through BMW, Motorrad in Edinburgh, and that was amazing. Moto Joe, you sort of show up and you I can't remember how I actually did it, but basically we did like a few lessons, did my module 1, did a few more lessons, did my module 2, and then at the end, but that whole thing is designed so that when you get to the end of it, you buy a bike. So they've actually got packages running at the moment where you don't necessarily have to commit to it, but you can go along being a never ever and speak to the guys at Motorrad, and they'll actually put you on that you can either buy a bike and you almost get your license included, not quite as straightforward as that, but bear with me, or you can go through your license, and then at the end of it you can buy a bike for a sort of monthly cost that's actually affordable and makes the whole thing a lot easier.
Definitely.
As I'm sure James Whittam, I think it was Whittam that did a full like female track day, because a lot of road, like the track day women don't want to do track days because the men are intimidating to some of them anyway.
It must be intimidating for women just coming into the sport when there's so little in numbers, and then there's all these men there.
It's definitely better than it was. Because I started in about 2004 and there really wasn't many.
No.
Especially on solos. There was quite a few sidecar passengers. But I mean, there's it's much better now than it was.
Definitely, I think in terms of barriers, definitely the cost, because it is so expensive, and then intimidation as well, and just not really known about it and the awareness.
Well, if any young ladies would like to come along to Scottish Supermoto, I'll definitely help you out.
So yeah, what do you think can be done to get more women and girls involved in motorcycle sport?
Well, I think the ladies have just hit the nail on the head, haven't they? Make it break down the barriers, be able to come along without the expense of buying all the equipment beforehand, having a tryout. And I actually don't think it's as intimidating as you might think, because I've always been opened with, I've always been welcomed with open arms and like really pally with all the lads, and they've always been really encouraging. So I would say get along to your local club, because that's the best entry level, and just try it out. Just come along, try it out.
Yeah.
Everyone's friendly. Everyone's
Yeah, I
there.
think any of the intimidation is actually like it's all in our heads, because I
Yeah.
think when the three of us all showed up for the first time, like actually I'm guessing, well, you guys mentioned you sort of grown up around it, but it definitely, I didn't feel any more intimidated because I was a woman. I felt intimidated because I was a beginner trying a new sport. And I think sometimes you've got to sort of separate the two, because it is scary doing something new, and that's okay. But equally, if anyone sort of, I don't know, ever sat on a bike before, you're actually one step ahead of most of the people. Like Kev's set up a school right off road Scotland. He's got beginners bikes. He does it in a field, so in like a safe environment. He's got stuff up at Crieff Hydro, again, so like safe environments to learn on. So actually you can go whether you're male, female, a group of girls, group of guys, it doesn't matter, because you've got a way that you're not having to fork out. I didn't even think of that earlier when we were speaking, but yeah, there's a way that you can borrow bikes without having to fork out money to buy them, just to see if you like it. And actually you could do that almost weekly for however long, until you decide that actually I want my own suspension setting, or I want my own this, I want my own that. I mean, to be honest, the biggest game changer for me was actually, you mentioned standing on the start line and maybe falling off your bigger bike can. I had my suspension done, and I put it off for about the first, I don't know, 12 months or so, because I was like, I'm not going to notice that, I'm not good enough to notice it. But then when I had it done, we brought it down, made my bike shorter, and actually now I can pretty much get both feet down, which it doesn't look any different. But the amount of people that, even sort of shorter men, came up to me at the last event, they're like, have you had your bike done? Like, yes, I have. Do you want to go? Because it's now just really fun. But it is still a man's bike, but just shortened. So I think that's probably made the biggest like intimidation difference, because all of a sudden I can put my feet down.
Yeah. So what advice would you give for someone thinking about joining the sport?
Do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Don't think twice.
Yeah.
Biggest barriers, in your head, and the fear of it. Once you go, like the other girls were saying, you sit on a bike, you take it step by step. Don't be afraid. You've got nothing to lose, everything to gain.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, totally agree.
See, when I first started, you get loads and loads of people offering you advice and telling you should be doing that, you should be doing that. But I think you just need to relax and do it the way you want to do it. Obviously take the advice, but just don't always, they're not always there to help you.
Yeah, I think they all mean well, don't they?
Yeah.
So that's us answered all our questions. So do any of you have anything else you would like to add, or any sponsors or teammates you would like to shout out?
I'd really like to obviously big up Scottish Supermoto. 2022 we run from March to October with an endurance race in November. That's at ESKC in Crail. Ages 7 to my age, that's ancient. And just check us out on Scottish Supermoto.
Lovely.
Yeah, just a kind of Knockhill racing track, and the East Fortune is my favourite croft racing track.
Nice.
And just everybody that's helped me over the years.
Lovely.
we can, yeah. So I think for us, it's definitely so we've put together Project Dakar, because my other half wants to show that you can go from novice to Dakar in a couple of years. So he's on a mental challenge, but through the back of that, we've had some amazing support from, obviously, Kev, I've mentioned him a couple of times, but that's Ride Off Road Scotland. Sterling Trailer Centre have been incredible. They've given me a trailer when Tim's been off doing like actual proper things. They've given me a trailer so I can actually go and race without them. Michelin have sorted us out with sort of tires, but not just the physical things, but actually being able to speak to them and say, what moose goes with this? How do I do this? I'm stuck here. What can you help with? So it's actually been like proper advice, like a real partnership. Teng Tools have helped us out with all the actually having a working toolbox, which is amazing. People come around and see the house and I'm like, yeah, but if you see my toolbox, it's really cool. And then I guess as well, like the SACU, because actually without you guys, like we wouldn't have a Scottish board for this. So yeah, just thank you very much.
Lovely.
Here.
Well, it's been lovely to have you on, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully we can get you back on in a few months or a year's time and we can hear about all your achievements and how well you've all done.
Fingers crossed. Thank you very much, Rachel.
No problem.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.